vocabulary. It's the quality of content that makes a difference. For more information, read jax.org.
The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjax.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Up next, national and local news from NPR and the WJCT News team.
Good morning, I'm Ann Schindler. On today's First Coast Connect, a surge in sextortion cases targeting minors. A cyber intelligence analyst talking to local law enforcement about what kids and parents need to know about a financially and psychologically devastating crime. Then, the 50th Annual Neighborhoods USA Conference returns to Jacksonville for the first time since 1977. And virtual architects compete to build a sustainable riverfront in the popular sandbox video game Minecraft. Join the conversation. Give us a call at 904-549-2937 or email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. It's all ahead this hour after the day's news.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump is expected to hold a phone call next hour with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump says he's still hoping to end Russia's war in Ukraine. NPR's Charles Maines reports Trump will also speak with leaders from Ukraine and NATO.
The phone calls come in the wake of peace talks between Russian and Ukrainian delegations in Istanbul, Turkey on Friday, their first direct negotiations since the early days of the war. That led to an agreement for a mass prisoner swap, but fell short of Western demands Russia join Ukraine in signing on to an immediate 30-day ceasefire. Instead, Russia has kept up the military pressure, launching mass drone attacks over the weekend. Charles Maines, NPR News, Moscow.
Powerful storms that raked the central U.S. over the weekend have killed at least 28 people. At least 19 victims are in Kentucky. From member station WEKU, Stan Ingold reports the Federal Emergency Management Agency is expected to start assessing Kentucky damage today.
Over the weekend, Governor Andy Beshear said he had put in a request for a federal disaster declaration, a process that he noted that's become familiar.
I've now been governor for at least 14 federally declared disasters, 13 of them weather, and this is one of the worst. It's one of the worst in terms of the loss of human life. It's one of the worst in terms of damage, and it's tough.
This is the third major natural disaster to hit Kentucky this year, with 2 rounds of heavy flooding happening in April and in February. For NPR News, I'm Stan Ingold in Richmond, Kentucky.
The storms also killed several people in Missouri. On Friday, a tornado left 8 miles of damage outside St. Louis. Officials say thousands of buildings were damaged, causing at least $1 billion in damage. Last night, tornado warnings were issued in Kansas, where there are now reports of extensive damage to several buildings in the western part of the state. The cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase is set to join the S&P 500 when trading opens later this hour. NPR's Raphael Nam reports it's the first crypto company to become part of this major stock index.
Just over 2 years ago, crypto exchange FTX collapsed. Today, a different exchange, Coinbase, is set to join the ranks of 500 of the biggest public companies in the U.S. Here's Faryar Shirzad, Coinbase Chief Policy Officer.
I think it's a historic moment for the industry, and it's a really special moment for Coinbase.
And that's in part because things have changed under President Trump. His administration is taking a far friendlier approach to the crypto industry. Trump himself has a financial stake in the crypto sector, raising major concerns about conflicts of interest. All of this is alarming consumer advocates who warn this is a nascent industry rife with potential for fraud and shady characters.
NPR's Raphael Nam. This is NPR.
You're listening to WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Good morning, I'm Stephen Ponson. It is now 9:04. Construction is scheduled to begin this week on a project to resurface Heckscher Drive in Jacksonville from Shad Creek to Little Talbot Island. The Florida Department of Transportation says drivers can expect construction during the day, but there will not be any lane closures between 7 and 9 in the morning. The project should be done later this year. Cuts to federal funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, were approved last week by the Agriculture Committee in the U.S. House. As Joe Burns reports, nearly 3 million Floridians rely on SNAP to put food on the table.
SNAP benefits have always been fully funded by the U.S. government. This bill would make the states pay 5 to 25% of the benefit based on their payment error rates. That could cost Florida $1.6 billion in 2028. Holly Bullard with the Florida Policy Institute, a progressive think tank, says state lawmakers facing budget shortfalls in this new recurring cost would feel pressure to cut people off or reduce benefits.
Who's going to feel the brunt of this? It's going to be rural communities who have a very high SNAP participation rate, and those farmers in those communities who support and engage in this program. And it's going to be an ever-increasing food insecurity in our state.
Republicans in Congress say the cuts to SNAP are part of President Trump's, quote, one big beautiful bill, and will restore integrity to the program. In Ocala, I'm Joe Burns.
Hot and mostly dry conditions in Northeast Florida today.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Doris Duke Foundation, which aims to support the well-being of people and the planet for a more creative, equitable, and sustainable future, and listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health and North Florida TPO.
Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, a crime that has taken the lives of dozens of teens, mostly young men, is the focus of local police and prosecutors. We talked to a cyber intelligence analyst about the epidemic of sextortion and why just cautioning kids about their online behavior may not be enough. Later in the program, celebrating neighborhood empowerment as a key to building community. But first, my guest is a senior intelligence analyst who has spent his career investigating cybercrimes and financial scams. He's also the author of A Digital Pandemic, uncovering the role of the Yahoo Boys in the surge of social media-enabled financial sextortion targeting minors. Paul Rafile joins me now via video. Paul, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Paul, you were in town last week. You were one of the many people caught up in our airport fire disaster, but you are now back out of town. But you were here in town talking to local law enforcement and prosecutors about this problem. And I want to get to the purpose of that visit and what you spoke to them about. But first, can you just give us a description of what sextortion is, what the problem is?
Absolutely. Sextortion or sexual extortion is a crime that involves blackmailing somebody, usually using their intimate images. And this crime has historically targeted women and girls. And the demands by the criminals were usually for more extreme images and videos. But actually, over the past 2 years, something has changed, and there's been a huge surge in financially motivated sextortion where the criminals are demanding money. And the FBI has actually called this an explosion of cases. And the victims, actually, in most of these cases, are boys and young men.
And so this problem has sort of flipped the way that we think about how this crime proceeds, and certainly the impact. And the problem that we've been seeing, we're talking about boys who are usually between 14 and 17. Most of this predation is happening online. And they're being reached primarily through platforms that a lot of kids use, gaming platforms, social media platforms, and most of them through ones that are commonly used, like Instagram. So where are you suggesting that people be most vigilant?
Yeah, that's right. So most of these crimes are actually originating on Instagram, Snapchat, and right now we're seeing a bit of a surge on TikTok as well. So between those three platforms, I would say that's where teens should be most vigilant.
And so teens are being contacted. How does it work? Are they just contacted out of the blue by somebody that they've never heard of before, that they don't know, or is it